We say, these are the clearest texts, which speak chronologically about the time of the descent of Isa alayhi salam. In order that we may understand it well, I point out here that the kitab direction of speech here is addressed to the Hawariyun, because they were the Muslims of that period. As for the future kitab, it is for anyone whose situation is like theirs, from among the Muslims at the time of the revelation of Isa. They are the followers of Muhammad, peace be upon him. A study of the exposed texts, and their comparison with our Sharia. What is clear from the wording of these texts, is that they are all set against the background of the time before the descent of Isa alayhi salam, and the signs leading up to his descent. Perhaps the most common sign mentioned by Isa alayhi salam is 1. The emergence of people who claim to be prophets, and false messiahs. This sign was reported by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as one of the signs of the last days. He mentioned that there will be 30 people claiming to be prophets, the last of whom will be the Dajjal Messiah. I would add, however, that this sign, described by Isa alayhi salam, may well contain a hint of the Orthodox gospel schools, with their astonishing capabilities, and numerous missionary television channels watched by millions, which are warmly received in the West. It is well known that they hijack the teachings of the Christian religion to achieve their political goals and personal interests. And then, they mislead large numbers of people. They are capable of carrying out attacks, and are highly mobilized in influencing public opinion, and in directing the public according to their will. 2. Great earthquakes, famines, and epidemics. And this is mentioned in the 3 texts just presented, 3 data from 3 versions of the Gospel. In some of them, there are indications that the earthquake occurred in a number of places, which suggests that the earthquake was not comprehensive. This sign has been reported by our Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, in 2 forms. Firstly, the number of earthquakes Katsrata Zalazil, and the years of earthquakes Sanawata Zalazil. Then secondly, with the 3 immersions that occurred in 3 specific locations. While this text from the Injil tells us about the period of the return of Isa alayhi salam, what is meant by it is a sign that has not yet occurred, as mentioned earlier. Namely, the years of earthquakes, or the 3 immersions in the east, immersions in the west, immersions in the Arabian Peninsula. 3. The power of the perpetrators of falsehood over the warriors of truth. This is expressed by the texts in several forms of speech, including, before this, they stretched out their hands to you, expelled you, and handed you over to the crowds, the prisons, and you were led before the kings and governors. It was then that they gave you up to hardship, and they fought you. You became those who were hated by the whole ummah. This sign was expressed by our Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, in various forms of speech, including the destruction of the noble, the trust of the traitor, and the betrayal of the trustworthy, among others, with the phrase, the elevation of the wicked, or with the words, the humiliation of the group that will be given victory. Another expression is that narrated about the era leading up to the advent of the Mahdi, and the era in which injustice was widespread in that period, to the extent that anyone who says Allah is killed. Another expression is, those nations rule over the ummah of Muhammad, peace be upon him. But the sign here hints at all forms of conspiracy, or conspiracies that were without limit against the warriors of truth at that time. 4. The cruelty of destruction in a holy place. This sign is not mentioned in the texts of our Sharia. What is meant by this sign, Wallahu a'lam, is the construction of the Jewish Haikal. The clues contained in the text point to the heinous destruction of a sacred place that was not meant to be done to it, indicating that this act, although its purpose was to uphold a religious symbol, was not done for the sake of Allah. The act therefore deserves to be labeled as vile and filthy, which is a synonym for the word unclean. 5. Signs of nature that preceded the descent of Isa alayhi salam. The expression about these signs is spoken with several utterances. Then the sun and the moon were darkened, and did not give their light, and the stars of heaven fell. For a time after the narrowness of the day, the sun and the moon were darkened, and did not give their light. And the stars fell from heaven, a sign appeared on the sun, the moon, and the stars. There was a fearful situation, and great signs from heaven. These are the most obvious astronomical signs that appeared before the descent of Isa, alayhi salam. These signs are expressed in a better form than I have previously described. The darkening of the sun and the moon's withholding of its light are allusions to the curtain that covers them from the earth. This is a sign of Dukhan fog, or the smoke that is produced and continues to cover the layers of the atmosphere caused by falling debris from the sky. As for the falling stars, they are a metaphor for falling celestial bodies or karaki that have been targeted. The texts that have been presented relate the great signs in the heavens to some of the things that frighten people on earth. Some of the texts explain that there are things that frighten people very much in what they experience, namely, the harmful effects that are produced by these signs. It also contains a hint that indicates their belief that what befell them was a form of Allah's wrath that resulted in the army of the heavens ruling over them. This is what the texts express with the words, "The people were filled with fear, and waited for what would come to the inhabited areas, for the forces of the heavens shook violently." We can also notice that the text uses kara yagsia, encompassing, enveloping, and it is the same word that is mentioned in the sign of smoke. Likewise, the situation of the one who waits also contains evidence to explain that the signs of the heavens appear first. Then in a short time, the heavenly bodies fall on the inhabited places. This information also corresponds to what I mentioned in the previous section, namely, the appearance of stars, meteors, and a short time later falling in the eastern region. 6. The shortening of time. This sign is expressed by the gospel texts in several ways, including, if the days had not been shortened, no body would have been saved, but because of the chosen ones, whom Allah chose, He shortened the days. And also, if the days had not been shortened, no body would have been saved, but because of the chosen ones, the days were shortened. This sign was also announced by our Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, in a number of hadiths, which I have mentioned in 2 sections of this book, one of which is in this chapter, but the text here contains 3 amazing signs. First, it affirms that time really does become short in actuality and reality. Second, the shortening of this period is closely related to the occurrence of natural events or signs that appear in the sky. Third, therein lies the wisdom of the occurrence of this sign, namely, that He wants to save many people from the inhabitants of this earth, by saying, had Rab not shortened the days, no body would have been saved. That this sign of the shortening of time is categorized as the essence of Rabbani compassion and divine protection for the Alula on earth, or the lovers of Allah in the world, or the chosen ones. And this is within the scope of the essence of, there is no protector this day from the matter of punishment of Allah, except those whom He loves. Hud 43. 7. Difficulty, confusion, turbulent waves. This sign is expressed by the gospel text in the words, trouble has befallen the earth, a number of people are confused, the sea and the waves are roaring. As for the occurrence of distress and confusion, it is also revealed in a large number of prophetic hadiths, and in a number of related athar. What confusion is more devastating than a person's turning between 2 completely opposite sides in just a few moments? A person enters the morning as a believer, and by the afternoon, he is a disbeliever. What difficulty and hardship is greater than the days that are in dire need of patience? When one clings to his din like one clings to burning coals, or when many people roll over the grave and even fantasize about death, and are eager to get what the grave dwellers get. But we also observe in the texts that have been presented that they point to the confusion or panic that is associated with punishment, the waves. Reality proves this sign. The last tsunami wave was one of many such signs. Perhaps there will be a violent ocean wave, or a typhoon of some kind afterwards. May Allah save us. 8. the mark of a human child. This sign is mentioned by the text after many events that occurred on earth and in the heavens, such as the disappearance of the light of the sun and moon, and the falling of the stars. The phrase that expresses this sign is, "Then there appeared the sign of a Son of Man," meaning that after this series of events, this sign appeared. The evidence therein indicates that the Son of Man will come out at the end of time, and that there will be some signs indicating that, and that these signs will be extraordinary events that will also be a sign of his appearance. This text contains two possibilities. First, it is likely that the Son of Man is the Dajjal, whom all the prophets, including Jesus alayhi salam, warned against. The reason for this is that along with this series of events, the signs of his appearance and markings begin. The description of him as the Son of Man referred to here is a description of his nature, whereas his claim that he possesses the attribute of Rububiyyah is a lie. Second, it is possible that he means the Mahdi, who also appeared during that period. There are texts that indicate a sign that will appear before the appearance of the Mahdi. It is this sign that is referred to by an atzar from Ali bin Abdullah bin Abbas, when he said, "The Mahdi will not appear until a sign will appear along with the rising of the sun." Abdurrazzaq, in his book Al-Mushanaf, Nuwaymin al-Fitna, al-Bustawi, said about this hadith, "Its chain of transmission is sahih, and its narrators are all qualified." It is also possible that this sign refers to the immolation that took place in the Arabian Peninsula against the forces that were about to fight the Mahdi. This incident is the greatest proof that justifies the appearance of the Mahdi. 3. Sunnah Rabbani in the destruction of the Ummah. The Quran al-Karim is the eternal manhaj of the Ummah, the lamp of truth, the light of the heart. In seeking inspiration from the course of the battle between truth versus falsehood, the Quran also contains constant directions for gaining victory or explaining the causes of defeat, with which it comes into existence, or without which it is destroyed. These methods or directives scattered throughout the Quran al-Karim are implied in certain editorial patterns that clearly indicate that there is a general rabbinic sunnah or rule, which is built on the basis of cause and effect according to Allah's decree, and this sunnah determines the existence or destruction of the entire ummah. This sunnah is like any other natural law that Allah, the Almighty, has established in this universe, in that the occurrence of a cause results in the emergence of an effect. Moreover, the Rabbani Sunnah in the destruction of the Ummah is more permanent and more firm than any other natural law in the universe. And what shows that this decree is more stable is the one who decrees it, namely, Allah, the Almighty. Allah Almighty says, "As the decree of Allah was upon those who were before you, and you will never find a change in the Sunnah of Allah." Al-Ahzab 62. It is a decree of Allah, which has been from of old. You will never find a change in the Sunnatullah. Al-Fath 23. We establish this as a decree upon our messengers, whom we sent before you, and you will not find any change in our decree. Al-Isra 77. And they swore by the name of Allah, with the strongest of oaths, that if there came to them a warner, they would be more guided than any of the other nations. When there came to them a warner, his coming did not increase them, except that they were far from the truth, because of their arrogance on earth, and because of their evil plans. That evil plan will not befall except those who plan it themselves, and what they await is nothing but the Sunnah of Allah which was upon those who were before them. So you will find no substitute for the Sunnah of Allah, nor will you find any deviation from it. Fathir 40-43. These verses show clearly the divine constitution that is established and built upon the principle of cause and effect on the change of circumstances and the destruction of nations. These verses are very clear proofs that confirm the permanence of these sunnahs. This is the meaning of what Muhammad al-Ghazali said in his words. The main thing is that the Quran warns as effectively as the natural sunnahs do. Just as water boils at 100 degrees Celsius, freezes at 0 degrees Celsius, or a gas has a certain pressure. And so, it is with all things in human civilization. the destruction of the Ummah or its victory, that, in fact, both things must be subject to the divine constitution, which cannot be changed. God's sunnahs in society are another form that perfects or adds to the naturalness of his sunnahs. In the applied sciences, there will not be the slightest deviation in this universe from the direction of its scientific edifice, and likewise the nations will not deviate from the direction of the starting point of civilization. Those are the sunnahs that are established with conviction. Those are the fixed sunnahs.